Here's a real issue in life. Is there enough time to take care of my loved ones and to take care of me? Is this a zero-sum game where the more I give to them, the less I have for me? Seems to me this is a really, really important issue. It can be quite vexing. I mean, picture it happening concretely, where maybe a mother is looking at a child. She's not going to say these words, but picture this can obviously be a kind of experience dynamic of, I know you in some sense need me right now, or certainly want more time from me, but I need to take more time for myself. So I can't spend this time with you right now. So it can seem like there's no good answer here, where either way, one is going to lose. Well, I don't want to come along and sound like I have a fairy tale response where don't worry, you're both going to win. But I do think we can come much closer to that, perhaps than we realize. And look, it's always going to remain a big challenge, a big aspect of life of how do we kind of divide things up? Because there is a limited amount of time and energy that is going to have to be divided. So there's always going to have to be some careful consideration about how to do that. There always will be a situation where we want to have been able to spend more time here than we were able. Sure enough. That said, I do think there's a principle that can be extremely helpful. And this is an instance of a broader principle of put first things first, and everything will then be in its place. Put first things first, then everything will be in its place. If we attend to the appropriate kind of hierarchy, then we're able to fit everything in better. How's that going to apply here? Well, I think we need to think for a moment about what it is to be a husband and father or a wife and mother, and recognize how central it is in our life to serve and to give of ourselves to others. So, when we get married, my now being a husband and father, or a woman's being a wife and mother, is really kind of at the center of life. No, not the center, ultimate center. In saying this, I'm taking for given here that God comes first. And that's the principle that's giving meaning to these other things. That said, there's a kind of primacy to, if I'm married and a parent, then there's always going to be a centrality of my giving to them. My life in many ways is going to be about serving them. Life is about giving of oneself as a gift. And now the special kind of primary day-to-day context of that is to my spouse and to my children. So what's the upshot of that? How's that going to help me here? Well, then, are you saying that means, well, just always give more time to them? No, but I am suggesting it goes a little bit more like this. In my taking care of myself, I realize that that's part and parcel of making me more able to do this thing that my life is especially about, namely to give of myself to the others. So we might picture going back to, say, our mother there in that challenging situation. It would be, rather than, well, gosh, I just have to run and take this time for myself, it might be this: I need right now to have some time away from you for me so that I can be the mother to you that I want to be. Same thing in a spousal relationship. I need to take this time for myself so that I can be the spouse to you that I want to be. This is actually a very beautiful aspect of the kind of complexity of the gift of becoming me. And so I'd say a big upshot of this is, don't see the time we take for ourselves as selfish, Or maybe to make that a little more challenging, because it is very challenging, don't make the time we take for ourselves be selfish. In other words, our attitude should not be, darn, I don't care. I just need this time for me, so kind of leave me alone and let me have this time for me. It's very understandable. We might feel that way and feel kind of pushed to that. What are we striving for? I need to take this time for me because it's what I reasonably need in order to be me. And central to being me is being able to give myself to you. And here's another beautiful aspect of how wonderful this is, that if when I take time for myself, I'm doing so in a non-selfish way, kind of just recognizing this is fitting so I can be myself and be able to serve. It actually redounds back to the good of the time I spend with them. Because now, as it were, there's a greater peace, I'd say, that goes throughout, kind of flows through all of the time. We can kind of have the confidence that we're going to take the time we need for ourselves without feeling guilty about it because it's simply appropriate. And that enriches that other time, also recognizing this other time, it so much is what our life is about. It doesn't need to take us away from who we are, especially given that we know we're getting that time over here that we all naturally need to be on our own, to be alone sometimes. So again, it's just another amazing instance of the principle, put first things first, and everything works out best. So in the end, I'm not saying this is an easy solution. We're still, as I said earlier, going to have to be working through, being prudent, working together as spouses, trying to figure out how we're going to divide up that time, how we're going to make sure that each is getting the time to self, for silence, for prayer, for reflection, for just a kind of individual recreation that is often needed. We're going to still have to be figuring out how to do that, but with a different attitude and with a very hopeful one, a beautiful one of, it's not selfish time. It's not just, I need the me time. No, receiving the gift of the great integration of who I am. It's very much about being with and for you and recognizing I also am going to take this time to become myself so I can do it better. I just think in the end we'll recognize, as usual, things are even better by the natural plan than we realized.